Hey guys, this is Lenny. And a couple weeks ago, I dropped a little mini fun documentary I did on Prince. While creating that, I had to go kind of far back into my own life and think about my upbringing and my own personal influences and things like that. And it really got me thinking, and I didn't realize it, but I grew up in a very, very, very musical and somewhat artistic household. Oh, excuse me. Before I get into it though, I do want to say two things. First, I want to give a huge thank you to the House of Dank for sponsoring this. If you don't know, the House of Dank is pretty much the best dispensary here on the Eastern Oregon coast. Did I say Eastern? Oh my God, I'm so dumb. On the on the Western Oregon coast. See, I've been going to the House of Dank too much, so maybe I should stop. But you should go because they're fantastic. And the second thing I want to note is that at times you might hear me bring up my parents, maybe something they did or something they said. And I want to be very clear in the beginning here is that I absolutely love my parents. Like any good parents, they did the best they could. And sure, I'm sure if you asked them or could ask them, they would probably have things that they wish they could did better. I'm not here complaining about my life or my upbringing. I'm just here giving you facts of what I went through, what I experienced. But with that, growing up, one of my very, very first memories is of my father, and he's not my biological father. Him and my mother, they became my legal guardians after my biological mother gave me up for reasons that I will disclose eventually, just not right now. But yeah, so, and his name is Leroy. So Leroy, my dad, my first memories of him is him singing. He, from what my mom told me, Doris, she tells me that my father, Leroy, he sang in a band. In fact, he was the lead singer of a band in Louisiana, and that he would travel around to nightclubs, and she told me that she would go and see him, and that she would be in the front row just swooning, just wishing he was hers, which I think is kind of adorable, but also kind of creepy. So Mama, I love you, but maybe not do that. The greatest thing about my father is his voice, and I'm really angry because I know biologically I'm not his, but I kind of wish, once you adopt a kid, they get powers like yours or something. My dad, he sounds like Luther Vandross. He sounds like a smooth mix of Luther Vandross and maybe a hint of Smokey Robinson. My dad, he's an amazing singer. And growing up, I would wake up sometimes at night and I would remember going to use the restroom, kind of peeking in because him and Mom would leave their door open, and he would just be sitting on the floor writing music lyrics. And in fact, I even remember one, and I hope he doesn't mind me telling you it because I'm not going to sing it because I can't sing. But Daddy, if you haven't recorded this now, then I don't think you ever will, because I was like 7. But this is my dad, and I'm not singing it again, but I'll tell you it. This is what I remember him singing, because him and his younger brother, they both sang, and I believe they sang together. So here it goes. Again, I'm not singing. He would say, "I'm brother smoking gun," and then his brother would say, "And I'm baby black," and that is as a duet. They both would sing, "We're just two baby brothers, each alike the other, from across the track." And I remember him singing that over and over and over. Maybe not over and over and over, but I remember hearing him sing that throughout different times. And I always wished I could take a time machine and go back to see my dad do music. I've had an absolute wonderful experience seeing him sing in front of people, and everybody got quiet. we had a family reunion one time, and they had a dance contest and a singing contest, and there was probably like 200, 300 people there, family and friends, and everybody goes up, and before they get ready to judge, like my dad just like appears out of nowhere, walks to the middle of the, because it was on a basketball court like type thing, and everybody was surrounding it, walks to the middle of the basketball court, sings an impromptu, what I'm pretty positive he made up right there on the spot, and for like a minute, and leaves everybody just breathless. And I was just like, bro, and I can't fucking do that. And pretty much everyone in the family has a good voice. Even my little brothers, and they're my blood, not his, but somehow those motherfuckers could sing, but I can't. I was like, man, fuck this. My mom, she could not sing. Not at all. And she would make fun of us. She would make fun of herself, but she would tell me especially that I took after her side of the family, that my voice was terrible. But one thing about my mom that I'm very thankful for is I'm not really sure if this was just me she told to do this or if my other siblings had to, but about the time I hit high school, she had pretty much told me that the rule for me was every morning I had to listen to gospel music. Like really, every morning I got up for school, the only thing I could play was gospel. No MTV, no VH1, gospel music. And the fucked up thing is it wasn't even like hip, like now, modern, skillet, or whatever it's called, kind of gospel music. Like, she was really making me listen to like Mahalia Jackson and Sister Rosetta Tharpe and the Golden Gate Quartet and the Blind Boys of Alabama and the Blind Boys of Mississippi and all of the Blind Boys of here and there. Like, I had to listen to like super old school, if not the beginning of quote unquote mainstream American gospel music. So like, I'm talking earliest, like the 1900s, and sometimes even older than that. So like weirdly enough, my musical education began very early, just from listening and hearing my dad to almost kind of being forced every morning to listen to gospel music. And one of the crazy things is if you know anything about your A, American history, B, musical history, or C, just history, you know that all the genres of music we have now give many thanks to gospel. Who knows what music would be like if there was not gospel music? And that's not coming from like praise the Lord. I mean, yeah, that, but like musically based, back in the day, way back when, women, they were the queens of the radio. Like the early 1900s, like if you were a woman and you could get down, like you were pretty much like put in the forefront. It wouldn't be for quite some time that men would take that place. And people like Mahalia Jackson, women like her, made it even more possible for women and for more gospel music to be heard, because Mahalia Jackson is pretty much heralded as the queen of gospel music. And I really can't tell you how many of your probably favorite artists started off in the church in some way, shape, or form. Yes, there are tons of them that did not, but really Google it. Google how many famous musicians started in the church, and a lot of them singing gospel music, and it's absolutely crazy. I learned a lot. I learned a lot about like timing. I learned a lot about music and, I guess, lack of better words, beats in some ways, because of the gospel I had to listen to every day. I mean, I love gospel music. Mainly, I love Mahalia Jackson because she's amazing. But even from there, every Wednesday, like clockwork, we would have what we called prayer service. And that was when we read from the Bible, when we talked about our day and I guess our life experience, whatever. But one of the main things is my mom, she went and found very, very old Negro hymns and spirituals that were sung in the 1800s and maybe even earlier. And she would print them up, and every Wednesday we would have to sing them. We would have to sing. And like, you can imagine like young adolescent to teenage kids just wanting to kill themselves every fucking Wednesday night when it's like, all right, 7 o'clock. And you're like, what? Like, what family on earth does this? But again, I was getting a lot of education in music, and mainly reading how early African Americans wrote and how they sang with the spirituals and hymns that I was given. So if you know me, you know I love Prince. He's one of my favorite artists, one of my favorite people. And one reason I love him so much is because of my mom. My mom and my dad, they both loved Prince, but more than that, it was the effect Prince had on my mom. And I mean, that sounds very strange, but let me explain. My mom, she wasn't an uptight Christian lady per se. I mean, if like a woman's top came off in a movie, I'd have to close my eyes. Or if like a somewhat sexy would come on, we would actually have to leave the room. If the radio was on and there was like too much cursing, she'd turn it off. Or if they were speaking very blatant and brutally about females, she'd turn it off. But she wasn't. I mean, we were allowed to listen to some very secular music, but more often than not, it was oldies and Motown and classic music like that. And I didn't see my mom sing along to too many songs growing up for that reason. But whenever Prince came on, my mom would sing along. And as a young person, it was just like, wait a minute. Whenever I come to my mom and tell her about the things I wanted to do, because my mom had this saying, and I'm sure you've heard it, and when people say it to me now, oh my God, I want to go crazy. And the saying was, be in the world, but not of the world. You know that saying. I hate that saying. And she would tell me that all the time when I tell her things like, oh, I want to do this. I mean, is it for God? Are you going to be making music for God? Well, I want to be a comedian. Are you going to be telling jokes for God? Are you? I mean, she didn't use that voice, but you can kind of imagine, like, it was kind of stuff like that. But bro, when Prince came out, she was dancing. And there were other oldies that did that to her, but it wasn't something that you saw very much in the sense of someone who was so like, do for the Lord. It has to be done for God. If you're going to be on earth, then everything you do, everything you think needs to be in the service of the Lord, which I understand in a way. But then to see that person sing about, I want to be your lover and kiss and, I'm not going to get into the Prince lyrics, but you know how they can get. And so it was fascinating. It was like, holy shit, like, you can get so big as an artist that motherfuckers' mamas is singing you in the kitchen while they make biscuits in the morning. You see what I'm saying? And when I realized that, I was like, oh, there's no limit to how high there's no limit, because good music is good music and it's going to touch you no matter who you are. You know what I'm saying? And you can, like it or not. Another reason why I'm so thankful for my mom and dad is because these motherfuckers, they knew how to party. Like my mom, she didn't drink. I'm not sure if she ever really did. I know my dad did. But when I say they knew how to party, my parents knew how to get down. Like what was it? We would get one big birthday like every couple of years. So it was like, oh, you turned 9. We can get a cake and hang out at home. But then next year you get to have like a party, or the very next year you get to have like a giant one. And when we would have parties like that, that's where I learned probably more or less my real love of dancing. Because because my mom was big, very big in the family community and doing things with the family and make it in like the youth growth and whatnot. And all my family is, and that's an amazing thing about all of them. And so we would have like singing contests and dance contests, and like my dad would hook up the stereo, and we would dance. And I like in my family, all of us, the young kids, like we were really learning, how to have a good time without needing to drink or like smoke or anything like that. So like when I go out now, even as a full-grown adult, and I start dancing, I ask people, "Oh, come on, let's dance." And they're like, "Oh, I haven't had a drink." It's like, what? I don't understand that, because that's not how I was raised. Like one thing that was celebrated was dance and music. Like I'm saying, like it was a big deal in my family, and it's funny that I didn't really notice or pay attention until now, pretty much, And so with that, I am so thankful being able to express yourself like that growing up. That was crucial for me because we were very, very very poor. And I know my parents did stuff like that to make up for it. And maybe not so much make up for it, but to do the best they could and give us what they had. And I can't tell you how thankful I am. I couldn't imagine growing up without having family dance parties and prayer service and things like that. That was detrimental. I think some of the biggest reasons as to why I love music and I love dancing so very much, because it's the core of who I am, And even with all the crazy shit my parents did to us growing up, they did amazing things, very amazing things, and this is one of them. God, I remember when we lived in Placerville, it was my 17th birthday. No, it was my 18th birthday, and we had a giant family barbecue at our house, because when we lived in Placerville, we had like 20-something acres, something crazy. So everybody came with tents and barbecue grills, and it was epic. Like it was like a mini festival, but like just family members on this just land in Placerville, and we danced all night. Like we moved furniture back in the living room, and we turned the music, and we went ham sandwich. And it's one of the fondest memories. It's one of my fondest memories. Like my parents, they gave me something so special when they gave me music and dancing, and I can't tell you how thankful I am. Like when I spend time with my son, that's one thing that I always do. I always make sure we have music, and I always encourage him to dance with me. And he loves to dance. Oh, I miss his little face. He loves to dance so much, and he's good. He's better than me. And it makes me angry because I've been here a lot longer than him. But, that's my baby boo. There's someone else who I do have to thank for putting music in my life. Is my second oldest brother. By the time I came into the family, my oldest brother was already moved out, had kids and a family. The second oldest, Ziggy, he was amazing. I mean, don't get me wrong, we bumped heads like any, siblings would, but when we weren't bumping heads, he was always rapping and freestyling and, always telling me about his dream to become a professional rapper and, all the things he was gonna do. And it was just so cool because, I think I'm at least 10 years younger than him, at least. And I would try to rap with him. We would do like a freestyle circle, especially like when cousins came over, because they were all around his age for the most part. So I would just sit back and just listen to him all rap and freestyle all day long. And my older brother, he would challenge me, and I don't mean like challenge me in like a rap battle, but I mean, he would challenge me to try, and like to see what I had. And sometimes I remember sometimes I would try to rap and it would just be terrible. And then sometimes I would get a good freestyle in and like he'd be like, oh shit, that was dope. You know, and as like a 10, 11-year-old, you're just like on cloud nine. You're like, yeah, motherfucker, I rap now. Oh. You don't want to hear me rap. Nobody should ever want to hear me rap. I'm terrible at it. I sound like people in the 80s who rap. But I got to spend so much time with him doing that. And it just meant a lot, you know? Seeing your older siblings like strive for something and practice at it pretty much every day. Like I remember seeing, like when we had bunk beds, I would lay at the bottom because that was his, and I'd always look up and he would just have like freestyle raps written, or he would have different rap names he was coming up with for himself written under it. And I just thought that was the coolest thing, you know? He had like cool names that he wanted to call himself, and it was just awesome, you know? Like, looking at my childhood, yeah, there was a lot of fucked up shit going on, a lot. But there was also good stuff, really good stuff like that when I look back on, and I haven't even thought about, like these are some of the first times talking to you that I've even thinking about some of this stuff, and I can't help but to smile. Like I was given a wonderful family, and I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful for all the moments that we had. Because of my family, music has been pretty much a part of my life since I can remember. When I was really young, not really young, I'd probably say early teens, my oldest brother, Zoom, his wife, her parents live like an hour or something outside of Sacramento, and we would go over there. Her parents and my parents were like really good friends, and we went over there one year for the 4th of July, and again, it's one of my most fondest memories. Oh, excuse me. Her dad, he comes down stairs in like his den, like bar area, and he sits down a stereo and he just kind of starts playing music, and he has like one of those giant Logic CD cases, you know, it looks like a book, and you open it and there's like 100 CD sleeves where you just slide your CDs in. He had one of those, and I remember just being like, just going through it and recognizing so many of the songs or albums just because of the music and the oldies and stuff my parents played. So I'm not sure why, but I took it upon myself. I just started picking out music and CDs, and whenever a song would stop, I quickly put a different CD in a song. And I kid you not, the adults danced all night long. No one requested a song because little me was over at the CD player, essentially being a DJ. I had never even knowing or understanding or even really hearing the word DJ. And that was one of the first times. I mean, I'd go on to do it pretty much all the time. Whenever we would have the family barbecues or events, I was generally one of the people, if not the person, doing music most of the night, you know, and I would leave and stop to dance, of course. Like I would stop DJing in a heartbeat if my jam came on. So that's why I get scared to get hired at a club or something, because if I play a song they're like, I'm gonna be on the dance floor, and they're like, we're not paying this nigga to dance, he needs to get up in the booth. So I get nervous. But man, all of this makes me think. It just makes me think, like when I got older, one of my buddies, we would throw parties. We would throw straight ragers. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm very surprised my mother-in-law at the time didn't kick us out of the house, because we got out of hand a lot of times. But even then, I was always at and at this point, iPods came out. And so we're talking generation 1, generation 2, just to kind of date you where I'm at. So I'm throwing house parties with first and second generation iPods, essentially, again, being the DJ. And those would go all night. And I owe all, I owe all of my love of music. I owe the weird fact that as a kid, I could feel a room and tell the kind of music they wanted to hear, to dance to, without it ever really doing anything like that. I owe that to my family, to my parents, for, I guess, forcing music down my throat in some ways, but also giving me music and letting me use it as a way to express myself while I was living at home. You know, music is everything to me. And thinking about how it slipped into my life is kind of crazy, because even through all of this, all the stuff I'm telling you, at no point did I go, I want to do this. Because in my eyes, the only thing I could hear was my mom or dad saying, if you're going to be in the world, you can't be of the world. And so I was like, I can't make music. I can't be a singer. I've been told by family I can't sing. I've been told, that this is of the world, and it's secular, and it's not worshiping God. So it's crazy, because if you knew me back then, you'd be like, this kid is always dancing, he's always singing, he's always listening to music. You would think that's what I was going to do, but I was so afraid. I was so afraid to feel like I was going to be judged, by my parents or by my family or even by friends, that I didn't take that step until way later in life. But even then, I'm still so thankful. I'm thankful because one of my favorite comedians, when he talks about comedy, he says, to be a comedian, to make good comedy, you have to live a life. He goes, when you're young, you can make dick jokes and fart jokes, and that'll only go so far. But until you live a life, your comedy is going to be very flat, and it's not going to resonate. And I believe the same thing is true with music or any artistic endeavor. If I would have started all this back then, I probably would have started for a day and then quit. But given all that I've gone through, all that I've been through, the life I've lived so far, it just pushes me and motivates me harder and more than anything I could imagine. So with that, I just want to say thank you.